Hello and welcome to the Cycle D live hangout. It is now about 6:45. We are starting in 15 minutes. So if you are watching this on YouTube, Hangouts on air, or if you're watching it after the fact, I would skip ahead 13, 14, 15 minutes so you can pick up where we left off. Excuse me.
Just saying hi, Clint.
Hi, Don. How are you?
I'll go back channel and leave you alone, but I just wanted to say thank you and let you know I'm here.
Can you hear me loud and clear?
10 by 10.
Perfect. So how was it? How was the trip?
Whoa, long trip, short wedding.
Gotcha. Was there any water for the wedding, or?
Yeah, actually, the people in Northern California were not especially sensitive to it. I didn't think so. The issue. So I think they're in for a pretty big struggle.
Gotcha. Gotcha. You were up near Yosemite, right?
Yeah. Just saying hi, Clint.
Hi, Don. How are you?
I'll go back channel and leave you alone, but I just wanted to say thank you. And,
All right. Go enjoy the show, Don. Thanks for touching base.
10 by 10.
Perfect. So how was it? How was the trip?
Whoa, long.
Hi, Cheryl. How are you?
Whoa, so loud.
Sorry.
Not your fault. Hi, Clint. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good.
Just me and you?
Don just jumped on to say hi and just jumped off. He's going to watch the back channel. So.
Okay. Oh, we've got another. Hi, Rebecca.
Hey guys, how are you doing?
Good.
Thank you.
How are you?
I like the picture of you and R2D2.
Oh, thank you. It's a mailbox outside of the Yale bookstore in New Haven.
Really nice. Nice.
Yeah.
But you must be excited with all the Star Wars news as of late.
Oh my God, that trailer itself was better than the first two, the episode 1 and 2 combined.
I agree. I agree. And did I see there's going to be a another movie that's not 7, 8, or 9, but Rogue One or something that's going to take place between 3 and 4?
Yeah, I saw that. I didn't see the trailer really extensively yet, but I just heard about that because one of my other big Star Wars friends let me know about that. But that new trailer was awesome in itself.
Word on the street is that Rogue One is going to tell the story of how they stole the plans for the original Death Star. So right before Episode 4, when the two of them were sent off by Princess Leia. So.
I love that because my favorite characters are stormtroopers in themselves. Actually, a funny thing is my birthday is May 3rd, and I always give my parents hell that if I was born one day later, I'd be born on Star Wars Day. May the 4th be with you. Every year they hear it from me.
If only. Well, something to plan for when you have kids, right?
Absolutely.
Yowza.
Hi, Storm.
Hiya. I have to run out and pull something out of the oven.
No worries.
Hi, Storm. Hi, Sarah.
Hi. Hello.
Everybody's connecting, and audio and video works, and wow, I should knock wood, shouldn't I? All right. Well, it's 6:53 by my watch. Well, I guess I don't have a watch. By my clock, and we'll give people another 5-6 minutes to jump on here. But yes, nice. Welcome. I thought the Apple Watch wasn't out yet.
No, this is just a fossil watch. Hey, I just want to take a second to thank you guys, well, everyone at SAM, on my part, for being so accommodating with all the concussion stuff that I've had going on recently.
Yeah, you're looking much better.
Oh, thank you. I feel a lot better. But it was something like I've never experienced before in my entire life.
Let's hope it doesn't happen again.
Yeah, no, I'm taking it easy.
Good.
I was surprised to hear you're practicing softball inside. That sounds like it's a recipe for disaster.
We've always had indoor practices.
Really?
The cage that we have is supposed to be safe. The situation in the way that I got hit could never ever be replicated again. It was just the perfect angle of the perfect hit in the perfect storm. But yeah, we have an indoor batting cage that pulls out, and we set up, and we have to cover the ground in one of the gyms with turf. So.
Gotcha.
It was your destiny.
Yep.
Unfortunately.
No, I'm just lucky it didn't hit me because I've already had surgery and to reconstruct my nose from back in high school. So if it broke my nose, I would have been in a lot of trouble.
Gotcha. Yeah, everybody seems to be scrambling, at least by me, for gym time because the fields are so bad. You know, between baseball, softball, lacrosse, everybody wants to get in and get some stick time, so to speak.
Yeah.
Hi, Angie. There she is.
Do we know how to sound for one person? You jinxed us.
Yeah, no. Angie's going to be loud and clear, right, Angie? Maybe not.
She's not ready.
1 minute. Got it. You're early, Angie. Take your time.
Okay.
Oh, I can hear you. Perfect. How are you?
Good. I'm good. Doing good. A little chilly up here in my
Gotcha.
study, but okay.
All right. Well, we still have a couple of minutes if you want to go get a sweatshirt or a blanket or something. So.
Okay.
All right. So we have, all right, a couple people. Jason and Storm said they were going to join us online here. So we've got Angie's on, Becky's on, Sarah's on. So Greg and Maggie should be joining us here in a second, and we'll go from there.
Sounds good.
Everybody feeling ready for another coffee about this time on this rainy day?
Yeah, I think so.
I'll be up all night if I do that.
Yeah.
I'll be honest.
How old are you?
I'll be honest. I'm doing this in bed right now. I'm so exhausted from everything.
Skip the coffee. This day is over.
It's all right. There was nothing in our agreement terms that said you could not be in a live hangout from bed. So.
It's funny.
We've been 10 minutes and not a crack about 420 day yet.
Oh, yeah.
High school kids love that joke today.
Ugh.
All right, I have a Cycle D post on the back channel. So if anybody's watching and wants to chime in with text, please feel free to go to the community page and comment as necessary. Trying to reel in a couple more people here, and we'll get going. Greg, how are you?
Not bad. Yourself?
Good. I can hear you, and you look good, but you're a little low on the volume, so you might want to check that or just make sure you speak out. Thank you, sir.
Let's see. Is that any better?
That is a little better. Thank you.
Excellent.
We need to come up with some music or something to play in the background while we're waiting to get everybody on.
Why don't you sing for us, Clint?
That's I have a cold.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I don't want to scare everybody away. All right, Jason's got that. So what I usually say to the lacrosse team that I coach is raise your hand if you're not here, but that may not translate here. So let's see, who are we missing? Sarah's here, Becky's here, Greg's here, Angie is here. Jason's going to jump in and join us. Jason is here. Hi, Jason.
Hey, Glenn, how you doing?
Good. How are you? All right. So I think we're just waiting for Maggie. We'll give her another minute. We have 4 viewers watching us. That's good. And Again, to refresh for anybody who's watching, the back channel is going on the community page, so feel free to comment early and often. I see Krista there. I see Fran there. Thank you, Fran. So we're good. All right, we'll give her one more minute and we'll get started. So get your refreshments and your popcorn now. We're starting in a minute. All right, I have one question while we're waiting. How's everybody doing with the rest of their classes and so forth now that we're coming down to the end of the semester? Happy, sad, nervous? You used the April vacation to get all caught up? No takers, huh?
That's one way to put it.
My wife's traveling this week, so I'll have kid duty plus all the stuff. So that's the way life goes.
Oh, jeez.
Great. Well, we'll pile it all on Jason. That works. All right. It's 7 o'clock on my clock. So and most of you are here. So let's get started. Welcome. Welcome to Cycle D Live Hangout. I'm gonna kind of play MC and technical director on this one because it's my turn, and this is the MOOC topic in general, and some of the new literacies, little n new literacies, are what I'm really interested in. I'm interested in all of it, but this specifically. So thank you for humoring me. And I guess first things first, everyone got their post in early for me, and I really appreciate that. I read through every single one of them and commented on all of them. So you can do it now or later. You can take a look at your post. They were all almost to a person wonderful, and I learned a hell of a lot. So thank you. That was great. I did some note taking, so. Well, this group is never shy, and we never have any there. But I may try to direct us to a couple of those topics later on. But what I was hoping to do, at least for kind of the first half of the show here tonight, is go around the horn quite a few times. Oh, looks like Maggie's joining us. Hi, Maggie.
Hi.
Great. Welcome. We just got started.
Great.
So what I'd like to do is I'd like to keep go around the horn twice. The first time is really just a 1-minute description of the MOOC that you audited and just a little kind of general how the experience was, good, bad, ugly, a point or two about the MOOC. But again, I'd like a minute and a half just to keep things moving. Then I'd like to go around the horn again and talk about kind of the relationship to new literacies. Some of you found numerous connections, some of you kind of struggled. No blame, no shame. It just wasn't the MOOC you chose. Was a little old school or traditional, if I can use that term in respect to MOOCs. So I'd like to go through the second round, just a couple minutes as well. And then once we get through those two rounds to kind of baseline where we're at and have some content to work with, then I was thinking we could kind of open it up to a general discussion of MOOCs, new literacies, and really some of the instructional strategies that a lot of you commented on as well. So any questions about process for tonight? Great, so what I'm going to do is I have all these wonderful faces down along the bottom of my little live hangout window, so in no particular order, I'm just going to start from right to left, and when you see yourself on the screen, the first round again is just a quick description of your MOOC and just a general overall how the experience was for you. And Storm, you are up first.
Okay, mine was a cooperative MOOC, and it was really I think the epitome of the kind of MOOC one should have, where students were facilitated in a conversation that they in fact drove and decided what was going to be discussed and what directions it would go. There were lots of materials that were provided. The organizers encouraged discussion, grouped people well, although you could move around a lot. So it was really driven by the participants as opposed to a teacher.
Fantastic. Thank you, Storm. Sarah.
My MOOC was about learning differences, and it was in that somewhat cooperative format as well. Each unit had to do with a different type of learning difference. It could have been working memory, it could have been executive functioning, it could have been motivation. And each unit was kind of set up where we would watch a few different films, and most of the films or videos were about teacher experiences or even student experiences. Some students were as young as 8th graders and as old as, in their 20s, reflecting back on how their learning differences affected their education. And then from there were a few readings. And the discussion post was in a similar format to what we have in our Husky CT and in our other class, where we're kind of posting and then adding threads and comments and things like that. And we were able to discuss with other grade levels, similar grade levels, as well as similar like birth dates. I guess they wanted to kind of make it so you didn't seem so overwhelmed with how many discussions.
Got it. Great. Thank you. Becky.
Okay, the MOOC I took was called the Kennedy Half Century, and it's actually very different compared to the two MOOCs that Storm and Sarah just were explaining, because it was extensively an X-MOOC. The course itself consisted of about 8 or 9 different units with about 10 to 12-minute video lectures, and participation was almost non-existent in this MOOC. You could just watch the video lectures, and for someone like me who enjoys good storytelling and the art of lecture and learning that way, this was really nice. At the end, the only quiz was an optional 10-question final exam if you wanted to get credit for the course. But I guess rather than having the community interaction, this is one of the MOOCs that was more about just largely opening up education and offering very specific education on topics which one might not be able to get in a regular school experience. And you can kind of tailor it specifically to something like the 50-year legacy of President JFK. So for someone like me who likes lectures, and I know that we really don't exist, there's not a lot of us, but I really enjoyed it because I love the art of storytelling. So it was a very good choice for my part.
Great. I'm not related at all, but thank you. Maggie, you're up.
Well, coaching digital learning, cultivating a culture of change, which was really geared toward instructional technology coaches, technology integrationists, media specialists, and other technology leaders in a school. And it was laid out like Becky's MOOC as well. There was 6 different units that were basically self-paced, and each one focused on a different topic. There was a video lecture, not really a lecture, but like a 6-minute overview each week. Then a list of resources, digital tools that you could try out, and the overarching, there wasn't any tests or anything, but the overarching project was a digital action plan that you could take back to your building to help teachers integrate technology into the classroom. And really the theme was to help people in your building integrate technology in a wise way. And that really was through each of the units.
Great. Thank you, Maggie. Jason.
So I did 2. I think I called it 2 in our 10th MOOCs. But so I did one on learning technologies, one on sort of intro to educational statistics for reasons that you all may get, and then I just sort of tried one because I was interested. I signed up for it and then got an email, so I tried it. So the learning technologies was probably more. I mean, they really were more like X-MOOCs, really, but because learning technology, I think, was so specific technology focused, I don't see how they'd ever run that, more than say 2 or 3 times in a row before they ultimately, the content went stale or the technology's features were outdated. The statistics one was also, fairly an X-MOOC. And then the one that I just sort of barely audited was more of a connectedist style, where they really leveraged communication and sort of interpersonal discussion much more heavily than the other 2. So, they all had different qualities.
That was nice. You got a contrast to the 2. So thank you, Jason. Greg.
All right. I think Jason just sort of made up for my accomplishments. I did Minecraft for educators, and when I had done that one, I found that, okay, so it was teaching Minecraft, how to build a server, how to use it in the classroom, and then it was, here's some basic skills in the game, and then here's the ultimate goal was to make a lesson plan that you could use in class. it was much more of an XMOOC in that there were a handful of discussion threads, but they weren't segmented out. So it was you could reply to this thread, but you didn't necessarily work with anyone unless you happen to need someone for the project of, look, prove that you've made a server, or prove that you have made this portion of a world. I may have let it go by the wayside a little bit, and will fully admit to that one, but I didn't see much that was in-depth beyond like a cursory level instructional for everything that was in MOOC.
Got it. Great. Thank you. All right. Angie.
Mine was programming in Scratch, and I was interested in the course because I think it would enable me to make up games for students to learn high-frequency words and individualize it for them, for each of them. The course was 10 lessons each, and it was heavy duty. It was like 3 hours if you really wanted to learn all about the programming language. And it was kind of difficult for me, but thank goodness that I was able to give the features where you could rewind, the video and then listen to it again. And I did that many, many times. And the project I was looking forward to do was making a game for the kids to learn not only high-frequency words, but there's another goal that I'm looking in mind to do is introducing to the kids games in learning their basic math skills. So I was interested in that, and there was a discussion board, and the instructors really made it clear that if you're going to post something on it, you really have to put in detail if it's like a question to the staff or a question to other students, so they really wanted you to detail that. I also enjoyed looking at other people's projects because it gave me an idea of what I can do with this type of program. So I really enjoyed that part. They also provided quizzes at the end and homeworks at the end, and they also gave you sort of like a bar graph to look at your progress and how you were doing at each lesson. So I looked at that and I was like, oh no, I'm going down to 60, and you go back to 70. And at the end, they did give you a certificate.
Great.
After taking the 10 lessons.
Excellent. Angie, thank you. That was a great overview. I purposely skipped Cheryl and Elena, who are here with us. If the two of you want to jump in, please feel free. I don't know where you guys are at with your MOOCs lately. I know you've done some in the past, so please feel free. Okay, so that was first round. As you can all tell, we have a very wide variety of topics, of formats, XMOOC versus CMOOC, and some of us followed it, took the audit, disregarded our expectation of audit, and actually participated fully, which is fine. You will not get any minus points for that. And others of you audited it, which is completely fine. This time around, I'd like you to specifically talk about new literacies that would specifically be needed to be successful in that. Now, I didn't define success because success in a MOOC can be a lot of different things, a lot of different people. But quite a few of you had some interesting new literacies that you picked up within the MOOCs that you were participating in. I think we can take off the table some of the basic ones. A lot of you mentioned kind of navigating a web-based interface for a structure of a course. And a lot of you also mentioned message boards and discussion boards that I do want to circle back to later because those were common across, but I think that is something that we need to dive into because I think it is assumed that we all know how to really harness the power of those. And some of you did have experiences where they did put in place some strategies to scaffold for that. But anyway, let's assume those two and let's talk about some differences. So I'm just going to go around the horn again if you don't mind. Storm, you're first.
This particular community building on this site was, on this MOOC, was focused on the community, building a community that would be sharing ideas and building on each other's ideas. So it was a truly collaborative opportunity. Some people didn't do that. They just came in and said, this is what I'm doing, this is what I'm doing, but there was an awful lot of back and forth of, well, why did that work, or how come it didn't work, or what would you do to change it? And so there was an entire group of people who communicated, created conversations which enhanced their own understanding of the topic. They created something new. It was not their It wasn't the idea of the teachers. It wasn't the idea of the MOOC. Each experience of taking this class would be completely different, I believe, depending on the participants and how they interact.
How many people were in the class with you, Storm? Do you know?
It started out at about 190 or something, but dwindled down to maybe 70 who were really committed. And because a lot of people joined it as a group from a particular district or from a school, they were supporting one another and working through what they were doing as their own little group, but then getting ideas from other groups. So it was kind of like a workshop for leaders who were interested in how to introduce digital integration. And there were a lot of ideas being thrown around. And people had very, very different situations in terms of what equipment they had, or what funding they had, or what staff they had, or what their goals were. And many of those questions came out as topics, not topics defined by the teachers or the organizers. So that was a very interesting track in how it developed. You know, it went off on its own tangent, and that was interesting.
Storm, thank you. All right. Sarah?
So I saw a lot of what Storm did in terms of community building, and there were some communities that had already known each other when they entered the MOOC. But I'd say in addition to that, one of the new literacies that I think you would have to be successful at would be understanding the accessibility that's available. And I know we've been taking a universal design course that's teaching us how to do that as teachers, but I think it's important that you know how to access all of those options in terms of the ways in which the instruction is being delivered as a student as well. So like I know that my particular MOOC had a lot of videos, which was very engaging, but they also had transcripts. They had an opportunity to listen to it as well, kind of like what we've seen in our UDL class. So I think as a student, you know, in this sort of new online world, you have to understand your own learning needs and know how to find those different resources that the instructor or facilitator has provided.
Great. Interesting. Thank you. Becky?
Kind of going off on what Sarah's saying, my MOOC, as I said before, you know, there was not really any community. There wasn't any community interaction. So I think that one of the major new literacies that really hit on my MOOC is the idea of self-discipline and self-regulation among learners who are taking X-MOOCs, especially if this is going to be something that is prevalent in undergraduate levels. Furthermore, when I started taking this MOOC, I kind of did a little research into just the idea of MOOCs in general. And one of the most interesting things I read about was the idea of lowering the cost of higher level education by taking a course like the MOOC I have, the Kennedy Half Century, a course which is pure lecture and, you know, having it run online free for anyone to take. But with that being said, if MOOCs are going to be, you know, on the forefront of a new type of education in higher level ed, I think that it needs to be taught, you know, to younger students, you know, progressively going lower and lower about the ideas of being able to pace themselves, especially when you have a MOOC like mine where I can access, it's open all the time, I can access any lecture at any time. So therefore there's going to be almost, you know, I see a new level of self-efficacy that students are going to have to be successful, especially, you know, you could get a certificate with my MOOC as well, but, you know, essentially, what does the certificate mean if the only quiz that really I had to take was a 10-question final exam?
Interesting. Maggie, you're up.
Well, first, I forgot to mention when I went around the first time that my MOOC also had a forum where there were topics posted each week and you could respond to that. But I think one of the ways that this MOOC embraced new literacies was through social media. Everyone who participated in the MOOC was encouraged to get a Twitter account if they didn't already have one, and to follow the MOOC on Twitter. And if you go to the Twitter account, you can see people are posting all the time, and a collaborative community sort of outside of the MOOC, outside of the forum, and the discussions that we have is online, and it's going on all the time. It goes off on different tangents, and even though it's all related to the MOOC, it's also like a separate entity from the MOOC, and they really encouraged people to move outside of the MOOC into the Twitter realm as well.
Interesting. Great. This is great. I'm thoroughly enjoying this. You guys I should be paying you all. Excuse me. Jason, go ahead.
So the timing's perfect because I wanted to dovetail briefly on what Maggie said, which was the point one of the MOOC that I audited. I did specifically for the reason of testing out the discussion capabilities of Twitter. So they actually leverage Twitter for all their kind of concurrent or synchronous discussion, which I thought was interesting. But there are two aspects of it that I thought were a little bit off-putting. The first was it seemed like the people who joined either knew each other or had a familiarity that I somehow didn't have. So, there weren't a ton of people. I mean, there were probably only maybe 8 to 10 to 15 at the high side who participated. It could be partly that because I wasn't a major participant in the class, I felt that, but I did get the distinct impression they all knew each other. The other thing was they ran them for a prescribed amount of time. So you would start at 7, and at 8 o'clock, all of a sudden, like conversation just stopped. Right, the couple people who sort of moderated it just disappeared, and everybody just left. And so the first one I did, I just sat there thinking, this will continue later. I'll check back, and you realize, no, that was it. Like, faucet off, right? No more of that. And I thought that was a really bizarre twist for something that I think could have been used exactly the way you described, Maggie, which was kind of a continual dialogue over the course of some amount of time, right?
It's kind of interesting because you can't just have that faucet turn off like that in face-to-face.
Right, yeah, like everybody just ran away.
Right.
We won't run away tonight.
No, I felt all self-conscious.
Well, but I think
Sure it wasn't you.
I think it brings up a good point about facilitating synchronous discussions too, and thinking about how to structure the end time. We don't talk about that very much. It's not something I've really thought about, but I think it's an important point for anybody doing an online course to consider.
Yeah, I guess my one comment would be, good teaching in the classroom can be good teaching online, and using some of these tools. We don't always do a good job of closure, whether it's exit slips or summarizing or bringing everything back to the objectives of the lesson. But that can certainly be done online as well, instead of just dropping everyone, or Jason particularly, as like a bad habit. So.
Yeah, right. I mean, it's definitely. I'm sure it was because of me.
Yeah. Greg, you're up.
All right. For mine, I would say the new literacy is actually because of last cycle that we did. I kept thinking the online comprehension and reading skills for what was necessary, because everything was very much video oriented for the instructions, and there was a lot that you had to piece together and be able to work with. The other portion of it, though, was I know that I was comfortable with the idea of setting up a server and going through all those instructions. Not everyone has that comfort with a computer, and is just the basic level understanding of a lot of key terms that are used both in online gaming as well as when working with the backbones of all that was a large learning curve I can see for a lot of the members of the MOOC.
Greg, when I read your post and a couple of the other students who were also in that MOOC, I kind of had the same question. Could they have done a better job at explaining what the technical requirements or the expectations, kind of a prerequisite going in, would be, or did they just do a poor job at differentiating for those who may be more technically minded as opposed to those who were not?
What it felt like to me, from when I looked at the lectures and the videos, it almost seemed like he was relying solely on YouTube videos to be the instructional method. And it was, here's a quick little introduction, and then here's a video. Watch this video. They inform you much better. And I feel like there should have been, if nothing else, maybe a basic skills category off to the side that said, all right, here is introductory steps for how do you even play Minecraft? What are these skills? And little side tutorials that you could do on your own that were step-by-step instructions as opposed to assuming the automatic familiarity with all of it. It did feel like there was. They gave initial prompt questions that said, "Do you have any confidence with this? Have you done anything with Minecraft?" And then it sort of assumed that you had complete confidence with this. So
Were
they
they?
could have done better.
Sorry, were they their videos or just random videos they found?
I think it was a combination of their videos and other online supporting videos that were tutorials.
Gotcha. Interesting. Yeah, I've seen quite a few of the flavors of that kind of catch as catch can on pre-made videos and package it together. It doesn't always flow together, and it doesn't get to that differentiation piece. So, Craig, thank you.
Yeah, no worries.
Angie.
I was reading the Cycle D literature, and I wish I had come across the one where it says how to succeed in a MOOC. Because at first when I got in the MOOC, I was so disoriented. Where do I go? How do I get to the video? What do I have to do now? The homework. So I think the literature said, I think it was Damiar. He said Damiar or something. He said first you have to orient yourself to see where the links are, how to make your post, where to go to ask questions if you have trouble, if you want to participate with the other participants, how you go about it, where to post the project. And the other one is that I found interesting was what Maggie has said, that besides communicating within the MOOC, you could also go out and make yourself a blog or declare yourself that you're interested in these types of in what you're interested in. And then you'll find other followers in there. You can make a group, and this group will help you focus to endure the MOOC itself. And then this is how you're successful. And also in talking about new literacies, I was cleaning out because my mom had moved to a nursing home, and I was cleaning out all her stuff, and I saw all of I saw that they were they had correspondence in learning where my father had one in law and my mom had something, I think, cosmetology, and the new literacies is like the professors that checked or the instructors checked their work and they had to wait for it in the mail, whereas now it's like to get the feedback maybe in a day or maybe half an hour, but it's like they had to wait for for the work to be corrected. That was a long time. That's what I'm thinking. Another new literacy, it's like where they have to read all these books and collect all this stuff and read it all. And here's like I think it was Sarah who said you have to go to links and you find the information in the link, or you go to a blog and you find information of like many places to find the information in a MOOC. Whereas here you just had to find information in whatever materials they gave you. That's what it was.
Gotcha. Great.
And that's.
Great, Angie. Thank you. All right. So again, sorry. I think these quick around the horns are important just to set some context and so forth. So from that last round, I heard created conversations to enhance their understanding, which I thought was wonderful, and that certainly to me goes into kind of a CMOOC category, and that was what Storm was talking about. I heard self-discipline and self-regulation. I also heard orienting yourself in a MOOC. That was Becky and Angie with those. I heard quite a bit of social media discussion. Both Maggie mentioned it, and then Jason's story about kind of inside baseball and Twitter use in the MOOC. So these are different components that I think are all you all did an excellent job of kind of picking out some of these little n new literacies that we have to be overall successful in these MOOCs have to be picking up on. Were there any others, and we're open session now, no more around the horn, so please feel free, that we didn't discuss or you think are a critical new literacy, at least for your MOOC or other MOOCs that you've been part of that should be part of our discussion now?
I found one, if I can go. Specifically for my MOOC, this actually took a little while for me to realize this, and I think one of the things that learners are going to have to realize, especially if you decide to audit on your own, it's not driven by a university or or any type of program that you're in, is the purpose of the MOOC, and if there's any underlying intentions. The Kennedy Half Century, I found out, is not just a MOOC, it's actually a book, a 1-hour PBS special, and a lot of this is orchestrated around a political science professor at the University of Virginia. The development of this MOOC came out around the 50th anniversary of JFK's assassination, and so although it's awesome that these are extensive lectures and they're very detailed, and they got more and more detailed as I went on, which I was happy about. But with that being said, it also was a source of marketing for this book and for the PBS special. So I think that it's it's really important that we have on one hand the fact that MOOCs are the intention of allowing education to be open and free and for someone to be across the world and be learning. It's great, but on the other hand, there could be other intentions involved. So I think that before everyone just goes in with the purest intentions, there needs to be some kind of, you have to go in with open eyes. There may be other reasons why this course is offered for free, because no lunch is free lunch in business terms.
It's an interesting point, and it's somewhat of a riff on kind of the evaluation component of the ORCA model as well. And I believe Jason mentioned this in his post too, kind of Jason, forgive me, I don't remember how you specifically phrased it, but what is the purpose of a lot of these MOOCs? And understanding that is important. Good example with the Kennedy years, but the MOOC model is still somewhat of a solution in search of a problem. In some ways, a financial problem potentially for universities, or different problems for other people that it could be solving. I don't know if anybody else had comments about MOOC purpose and so forth.
Well,
I have to say that sorry, Jay.
That's fine.
You go then, Jason.
The MOOC that I was in, that kind of learning experience cannot happen in any other venue. To have international participation that is constructing knowledge it's happening on the internet, and it can't happen with an XMOOC or a lecture. So those kinds of, Clint, you asked about the teaching strategies, the specific strategies, and the strategies evolve from the group dynamic. That would not have been possible without this ability to converse in this form. So, the purpose of it is to gather people together to have conversations where they're building something new. That's different than having the XMOOCs where you're just delivering information.
So, yeah, and I think that's a nice sentiment, and probably in some cases that actually is true. And it sounds like you actually had a really good experience in terms of participation and sort of the diversity of the people that you have. The statistics one that I participated in is basically as soon as I signed up, I was presented with a consent form and a lengthy description around how my participation was going to be used in the individual's research, which honestly I'm perfectly comfortable with. I think you get something, you put something in, and somebody gets something out, so I'm okay with that. But it was really interesting it was the first time I've ever seen somebody so overtly simply say, I am doing this to support a research project of mine. You can take it if you want, but I'd love your assistance. So of course I opted in, and that's cool. But it was definitely a kind of an epiphany for me when I realized, okay, like there are other motivations here besides humanitarianism in the desire to share knowledge, right?
Any other comments on purpose? I don't remember who said it. Actually, I'm looking. Becky, you said it. This idea of self-discipline and self-regulation, and you actually made the comment about your thoughts about how we should start earlier so that students had a model so they could kind of build that mental model of what this new world looks like, but also please don't let me put words in your mouth, but so they had opportunities to practice with this. Angie also said to kind of orient yourself. So is that a new literacy that we should be teaching at grade level X or what have you, so that students are more comfortable with this type of learning or experiencing the benefits like Storm was talking about of this? Anybody, not just Becky, can.
Well, just quickly to start, I think both. I mean, it's obviously the benefits are one thing, but we are faced with the fact that there's a growing cost of education, and one way to bring down the cost, unfortunately, is to offer these MOOCs where it costs less for students to access the content, and therefore you just can't expect students to walk into graduate from high school and not have the experience yet. So maybe if it's integrating with even having maybe one a homework assignment a week or something in sort of a format like this, or maybe even making part of a class. But I think it is something that needs to be taught earlier. To what level, at this point, you'd have to. I wouldn't know exactly where to start, but if this is what the future of higher ed, especially in a culture where it's no longer memorizing information in going to school to learn it, but having the instant gratification of knowing how to access the education, that's important that we teach the skills. That all of these courses are available if you want to learn about, Kennedy or Minecraft or whatnot.
Got it.
I have a question, actually, and I might be giving myself away a little bit here, but there's no kind of regulation to any of, even through Coursera or any of those. I mean, it's still just anybody could do a MOOC, right? And you don't really know what you're getting.
It is similar to the World Wide Web, where anybody can hang a shingle, so to speak, or create a site and do that. So yes, I think we're lucky from the standpoint that a lot of these have come out of, well, Coursera really came out of Stanford, and edX came out of Harvard and MIT, a collaboration. So there is some name recognition there. But you're right, no, Cheryl. Your mileage may vary on a lot of these. So I know Jason, again, in his mentioned accreditation and what the future may hold for these. And I know there are some groups working on that, on how we make these a viable option for credit students who want to be able to get credit, so to speak, for these courses. That hasn't been figured out as of yet. I think we're still kind of in the wild, wild west, but others can comment, please, on that as well. All right. One of the things that I think is related is, I don't know, have any of you heard of the term SPOC as opposed to a MOOC? It's a small private online course. Some have taken kind of the MOOC model and flipped it on its head, very similar to what we're doing here. So getting some of those benefits that you all have talked about, but not having to deal with that scale that a MOOC implies in the M for massive. And I think that's related to this idea, too, of message boards have become a convenient, and I may even say it, kind of a lazy way of building interactivity into an online environment. We have a message board. Anybody can share. We're interactive. I heard one of you did mention that their course did have a way to kind of to scaffold or to chunk those message boards. Sarah, it might have been you.
Yeah.
On that, can you talk about that a little bit? Your message board experience and what they did instructionally to change that a little bit?
I mean, it was very simple the way they tried to chunk it. First, it was broken up into elementary, middle, and high school, and then once you chose that, it was chunked into the month ranges of your birthday. So the range that I was in was like May to August or something. So there were still tons of people, even on just my little section, and it definitely looked like the discussion posts we've been having where somebody makes a thread and states their reaction to a case study or something, and then there were little comments or questions that happen after that. So that was kind of a simple way of chunking it.
Okay. Others who had message board experiences that were similar or different or successful or not? Greg, did the Minecraft one, I believe that had forgive me, 3 of you did the Minecraft one, but I believe that did have a message board. Did that help at all in potentially that differentiation component, or to help people over that technical hurdle, as you mentioned?
I was actually just going back and looking through the group section of that, and they did have about 12 groups or so that were available for people to join into. And each one was geared towards the different levels of interest that were out there. So they had a Minecraft for language learning. They had after-school activities, librarians, and they had a range of different groups for that. Interesting. I'm looking at my numbers again on this one, and it's funny because some of these groups, I wonder how much they were able to benefit from the groups because they were actually so small. Some of these groups only had 3 to 6 people that were in it, as opposed to some of the others that had 15 to 21 in a group.
So it was over-chunked.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, I'm personally interested in this because I find it the signal to noise ratio in the average discussion board of an online course to be almost overwhelming. And I don't know if I'm alone in that, or at least the conversations I have, I don't seem to be alone in that. So I'm interested in strategies that the level and when your birthday is interesting and kind of haphazard. Sarah, did they get that information from a pre-course survey, or did you self-select into that?
You just self-selected, so really you could have picked any group.
Gotcha. Okay.
But I felt like personally that it was overwhelming. I've kind of listening to what Greg said, and I almost wish it was only 2 to 3 people, because I think at a certain point you feel a little less accountable when you've got plenty of people who are going to answer it in a zillion different ways that really, I don't know if I could rephrase it any other possible way. But working in like a small discussion board or like that SPOC you were talking about, I almost want to like check that out, because I think I would feel more accountable to participate more and fully, rather than the huge overwhelming one that I experienced.
Okay, gotcha. Other thoughts about message boards, or have we buried this one?
I was going to say, mine just naturally, they did do one of those chunkings of introductions were A to L, you know, they did them by alphabetical things, and that sort of tried to put people into hunks, but almost the titles of their threads determined what the next sort would be. So by the time the second discussion came around, people had already started to align themselves, and it was somewhat geographic, and whether it was district or it was high school or it was middle school or elementary school, but the group sorted itself out. And I mean, we're not talking 10,000 people here. We're talking over 200, but they did manage to sort themselves into discussions that were meaningful to each of them. And that process of sorting themselves was facilitated by doing initial chunking, and I think by the ability of the posters to choose good titles for their threads.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, so that makes another point, Storm, that the people kind of do have to be a little savvy, right? They have to kind of know their way around to be able to get the most out of it.
Right.
To Becky's point, if people have experience in these and kind of can practice this as opposed to jumping right in, there's rewards down the road for having experience with this.
Right.
Maggie, I believe you mentioned that one of your outcomes or the final project was an action plan, I believe you called it. Can you explain that a little bit? Because I was intrigued by that being allowing you to kind of differentiate and so forth, but having some structure for what you're ultimately trying to do within the course, something to kind of hang the pieces onto.
Right. Throughout the course, each week, each topic, you were building this action plan based on tools that you learned, or like we did one whole week was about how to do project-based learning and how to assess project-based learning, which was really valuable to me, literally how to make a rubric and how to apply that rubric, and then how to drive your instruction from that rubric. Mm-hmm. And so each week you were building a part of that so that by the end of it you had this, they called it an action plan that you could then take back to your building, because I think as any of us who work with teachers know, you have these conversations, you're in the hallway, can you help me find a digital tool for this, or can you help me, make a rubric for that, and you have to try to make it up at that moment or think back on other lessons that you've done. And I think the point was that you were going to use all the resources and what we learned throughout the MOOC and have that at the ready to help you in your building or help you in your teaching.
Gotcha.
if that answers the question.
Yes, no, thank you. Sorry, I was sneaking over at the back channel. People are talking about us, so great. All right, one of the resources that we provided overall that I know quite a few of you got to, especially since I saw it in a lot of the in the papers, was this idea of XMOOC versus CMOOC, and a lot of you have already referenced that tonight. I guess I'm curious about having a conversation about specific design choices if we were, as an individual or as a group, to design some of these things. I think we know where Storm is on that spectrum, and I'm going to try not to show my cards too much, but I'm with you, Storm. But it seems like we've kind of have two camps, and part of the interesting component to this is the CMOOCs were originally the original MOOCs. Dave Cormier, I think that's his name, who originally coined the term MOOC, which is somewhat unfortunate, but that's okay. Really, it was about, the point was to build a community and help connect people as almost a shared learning experience around this idea of connectivism as a form of learning. And MOOC has really become popular, not so much in the CMOOC world, but in the XMOOC world, being Coursera and edX as exhibits A and B. Now, we could argue that some of them have different instructional strategies, but I'm curious for the group, in your own MOOC experiences and moving forward, what would you label your specific MOOC, and are there benefits that you see if they adopted the alternative style? Can you envision how that would change, and I guess how that would work?
So I just was looking at the resources that you gave us this week, and I just want to make sure I understand. An XMOOC it says professor-centric. Does that mean that there's, like the MOOC that I took, where here's what we're going to do, here are the lessons for each week, and then you go ahead and do that? Is that an XMOOC? Am I getting that right?
Who wants to answer, Maggie?
I will. Because I think Maggie's MOOC was the second piece of the MOOC that I did. It was a MOOC Ed, right?
It was what?
MOOC Ed.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was almost like a step process whereby the leaders in the district would get together and do the MOOC that I was doing, and then the boots on the ground would be doing what Maggie's group, the one that she chose. And I was, I didn't know whether to choose one or the other. But from what you're saying, Maggie, it's basically the same idea of getting together a group of people who have a job to do, and then providing resources, and then all of you figure out what it is that you would do to do that. I mean, it's not like somebody saying, here's how you teach somebody about editing videos or, producing instructional materials, right? Everybody was getting together and saying, oh, here's an idea, oh, did you ever try this, how did it work? That kind of conversation.
I mean, that kind of conversation happened in the discussion forum and on Twitter. The MOOC itself was set up like the classes that we take online. Here's Unit 1, here's Unit 2, here's Unit 3. This week we're going to learn about digital citizenship, and so we looked at common sense media. This week we're going to do this. And I think that if you were just doing it to get credits for something, you could easily just, have a cursory relationship with the MOOC. You didn't really have to dig too deep. You didn't really have to do a lot, and I think you could get out of it as much as you wanted to get out of it.
Right. Well, absolutely. Yeah.
Gotcha. Others in this dichotomy of MOOC XMOOC and CMOOC?
So, my takeaway would be, the CMOOC is going to be a much more challenging thing to pull off well. An XMOOC, you can create it, maybe it's probably a little bit easier to monetize your content. You can do it over and over. I can see some value in presenting some sort of remedial courses, or like I had discussed in my post toward the end, the value of your foundational undergrad type courses. I could see an XMOOC being pretty useful for that. The connectivist MOOC stuff, the CMOOCs, I mean, it's harder. You know, you want to put together this vibrant group of people and have discussions, and then you realize, you know, maybe putting a large group of people in video is challenging. You know, as we see, for example, what we're doing here, right? There's sort of a limit to that. So now all of a sudden the massive aspect becomes much less massive. So that gets harder. In one of my courses, we had a variety of guest speakers, and you know, the quality really varied. I think it was very difficult to get all these people convened and to be able to put the people into the MOOCs, and then, you know, within 2 minutes you're like, I can't barely stand listening to that person, right? So then you just want to get out of the course, and so you get a lot of that stuff, and it's trivial to jump out, right? I mean, there's very little buy-in to actually sustaining it from start to finish. There's no credentialing. There's no, you know, in a lot of ways, you have to be an awfully self-motivated individual to sort of stick through it from beginning to end. So, I mean, I think it's really hard to create a compelling MOOC.
I think that relates to what Sarah was saying about that accountability, right? So you almost need some kind of chunking. It's massive is great for getting it out there, right? And getting more people to be involved, but it's not really the best way to get the most out of it. It's like Storm was saying, you know, it's that interactive component.
Right.
Yeah, Storm, speaking of that, you said it was about 190 to start and about 70 when you finished up. And that, I think that is related to, again, what you want to get out of these things. Some people like to lurk within a MOOC, and they're not interested in completing it or getting credit or whatever. They're interested in the resources or whatever, and that's fine. I mean, I think we're seeing about on average about a 10% completion rate for the average MOOC, whatever that might be. And that's been used in the popular press to kind of ding these things. But again, you have to ask the question, what is your purpose in being part of it? I guess the question then, related to what Cheryl was saying, Storm, is what would have happened if instead of 190 to 70, it was 50,000 to 10,000? You know, could you have had that same experience, you think, in that, or was it about building relationships and having a manageable group of people to interact with?
I think there was a scale piece to it. Obviously, it was pretty small. But I think that because people were encouraged to come in groups in the first place, you know, so that they had a number of people that they were already working with, or they had a common goal, and so they were trying to do their own collaborative project and bounce their collaborative project off of somebody else's collaborative project. I think it would allow it to be scaled larger, because it wouldn't be so many individuals being lost out there without a point of connection.
Gotcha. It's a grouping of that. Okay, fair enough. Other comments?
Can I add in something?
Please.
So one of the things, or one of the videos that I watched, I wasn't sure if it was on the list of the YouTube videos you provided, was about the first MOOC that launched really out of Stanford from edX, the Circuits and Electronics MOOC it's called. And when it launched, it started with 155,000 participants, and it ended with a completion rate of about 7,000 some odd participants in the first year. With that being said, if that one professor, the point he makes is that in that 1 year, he was able to reach out to more students that got to completion than if he had 2 semesters with a couple, you know, classes of having about 400 students per semester. So even the point that you made about the completion rate, that there are the lurkers, even though it's only about 10%, that's still a lot of people if it's a large enough MOOC.
Sure.
But
and you know what, you can argue, sorry, I was just going to say, maybe I'll wait till my dog stops. Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was going to say, but what's interesting on the other hand is that there are very large universities, like specifically Oxford, that pride themselves in the fact they're not really jumping on the MOOC, what they call bandwagon yet, because they're priding themselves with the smaller ratio, the 2-to-1 ratio, that still is in traditional education. So I think it's just very interesting that on one hand, you have very prestigious institutes like Stanford that are very proud for the fact that they're in the forefront of the MOOC world, but you also have other places that specifically, you know, advertise and take pride in the fact that they haven't gone to the massive online open courses yet, that it's more of that individual learning experience.
Well, I was going to say, which is related to that point as well, you could argue that even people in a 400-person lecture course are just, a lot of people are just auditing the course there too. Even if they show up every week, you really have, you're not measuring their engagement.
All right, we have officially 5 minutes left in our performance this evening. I don't want to artificially cut off the conversation because I really do enjoy this. But I did want to give everybody a chance to I wanted to go around the horn one more time for any kind of a closure activity, to see if to give everybody a chance to speak about kind of MOOCs overall, but in the context of new literacies. And you can I'd like you to go one of two ways or both. You can either talk about the content and your MOOC and the benefits, pros or cons, and a recommendation for the future with MOOCs, or you can also talk about process as far as an instructional tool and what that might mean for new literacies instruction in the future. So take your pick. I don't want to put anybody on the spot, but I'm really looking for kind of a last word on your experience from a content standpoint. How do you see MOOCs in our world, setting in the context of learning in general, but related to new literacies, but also this idea of it as a process or an instructional tool? Storm, you've been going first all night and doing a great job, so I'm going to let you.
After he says he's not going to put anyone on the spot.
Bam!
That's a doozy, too.
I think that and I'm not going to go with MOOCs because I think that it's too big. I will go with Spooks or Fox or whatever it is, or even the online experience that we're having taking this entire master's degree. There are definitely techniques that need to be applied in online learning, and I think that some instructors are more skilled than others. There's a very important skill set to be learned with synchronous and asynchronous communication. And I do believe that people need to have practice with it, both as teachers and as students. The value of the MOOC in terms of educating, and I mean massive MOOCs, in being able to offer education to people who don't have the opportunity is tremendously important. But this ability to learn to use the technology to learn on your own is something that we need to teach at a young age, and that there are ways that we can do it. But our teachers need to be skilled in how to present that in order to make it feasible and attractive to kids and usable. So there it is. That's my.
Storm, you just did an excellent job of taking my very convoluted question and making meaning of it. So thank you very much. Sarah, you're next.
I would just. Oh, sorry. Can I just add something quickly? Just the point that Jason made about. We also kind of need to teach, if such a thing exists at this point, like a MOOC etiquette, right? About what's appropriate, and teaching that to kids younger can also get everybody else to get more out of it.
And to Storm's point, maybe not just MOOC etiquette, although I agree, but kind of online learning in general, whatever form that may take. Sarah?
I think in terms of methods and instructional practices that I really liked in my MOOC that probably couldn't be done anyway else was just the interactive piece of technology that it brings to us. Being able to see what it was like firsthand to have working memory issues, to have executive functioning issues. I mean, those are interactive programs that were linked from the MOOC that I wouldn't be able to learn if it was just here's what working memory difficulties mean. So just that piece of interactive components that the online portion of MOOCs can provide, and also in terms of what we're all saying about bringing this whole MOOC etiquette and practice with understanding how to participate in online learning, just makes me think of flipped classrooms that I have seen in my current high school and learned about in other schools of just there's similar components to the U.S. history flipped classroom that I have the most experience with in terms of discussion boards and videos in terms of providing instruction, but that might be a very interesting way of bringing that MOOC etiquette and practice with this whole idea down through the grades.
Great, thank you. Becky.
I was going to talk about flipped classrooms, but branching off of what Sarah said, specifically with my MOOC, like I said, my MOOC was one where it was almost all lecture-based, and for someone like myself who enjoys lecture, it was done very well because the instructor had a magical presence, and paired with historical video and overlaying audio clips, it's definitely a tool that would benefit from having. I would absolutely love the flipped classroom, watching that at home, then going and able to have discussions or work on assignments. But what ultimately this experience has brought me to is almost fork in the road between having XMOOCs for almost even entertainment purposes. I had fun just watching these videos. It was almost like a TV show. But if there was going to be a certificate where there is credits and it has to do with something that you can put on your resume that you completed this MOOC, I think there needs to be the community aspect, more than just a 10-question final exam. So in the future, when it comes to, I think there is going to be a more definitive, label to the purpose of MOOCs, or if they're smaller and where they're going to be. But I definitely saw that there are different purposes, collaboration, education, but also entertainment value as well. I had a lot of fun watching lectures about the Kennedy years.
Beautiful. Thank you, Becky.
Make a good point, Becky, too, about the fact that even people posting MOOCs, there's some kind of etiquette that they need to follow, right? Like they're responsible if they're giving out certificates or some kind of credit for following some kind of, I don't know, as far as I know, there's no etiquette like that exists at this point.
Yeah, one of the videos that I watched just really quickly, it was the one about the Oxford MOOC, and I mean the lack of MOOC, and the idea, people were talking about how they were taking MOOCs and they were getting credits, and it's an entryway into interviews. It won't get you the job, but it could, future employers can see that you do participate in these online classes, you are learning, you have these new literacies, these new skill sets. It's just, are you taking part in it? Are you auditing it? Or are you simply just, how do you legitimately prove that you have the certificate if it's going to bring you something?
All right, Maggie, you're up, and I want to be somewhat realistic with time, so we've got 4 more people to go through, so I don't want to cut you short, but if you could keep an eye on the time, that'd be great.
Sure. I just had 2 quick points. The first was in terms of the MOOC experience, my MOOC was structured very similar to the classes that we're already taking, and it was a really good fit for me because I tend to be a lurker, and I could kind of work at my own pace. It could be midnight or 5 a.m. or when my daughter's at lacrosse practice, whatever. So for me, it was beneficial, and also because I'm the only media specialist in my building, I don't have a team on site. So whenever I'm able to be part of a community that is technology-based, it's really good for me. And the other thing was, the one thing I really thought about after my MOOC was how I could do that on a small scale in my building. And I was thinking of things that I do with the kids, like this year I started doing some coding during Hour of Code, and the kids are always asking me for more of that, and I just don't have time in my, because of all the other things I have to do. And I thought it would be interesting to make videos and have resources, and I can do a wiki on my website and have like a mini MOOC among my students and see how that would work. I think that some of my kids would really love it.
Let us know if you do.
I will.
We're going to require you as a guest speaker next semester. So thank you for offering, Maggie. Jason.
Sure.
So I'll be short, and I'll end with a prognostication. So I think that we're going to see a transformation in higher ed where you really do start to see a lot of the undergraduate courses for sort of convenience, cost, and maybe a variety of other reasons move toward a MOOC, and you'll start seeing these sort of institutions of higher learning be more for your sort of graduate level stuff, or at least your kind of more further along your education type courses, right? Your senior stuff or whatever. I think we'll see community colleges ramp up some, and I think we'll see MOOCs take a lot of that pressure once we can get some of the accreditation done. So that's what I'm really interested in watching, because I fully expect university footprints to start, physical footprints to start shrinking, and MOOCs to be a contributor to that.
Great. Thank you, Jason. Greg.
All right. I'll try and keep mine brief as well, although good luck with that. I have to take this from the middle school and leading into high school standpoint. I was thinking about it. I had zero motivation in high school. In college, I had multiple teachers come up to me and ask how I could light a fire under my butt. This does have a connection, I swear. And I was thinking about this as schools, middle school level, high school level, producing MOOCs, ex-MOOCs for the particular topics that students can take their specializations in, can take when they have the option to select the courses that they want or the fields of interest they want, taking a Vietnam War series versus a Civil War series versus a World War II series of history classes, for example. Offering some lighter level MOOCs within a school, essentially. So a school-based MOOC, all that. Details. But to give the students an idea that there's more material out there that they could be interested in, rather than just, oh, I have to take this next. This is going to be the subject that I'm taking next. I'm mandated to take these courses, and therefore I'm going to view it as drudgery. Use the MOOCs as a way to incite and arouse some excitement about the material by giving them a taste of it ahead of time. And really, that's screw it. I'm sticking with that as my point.
Greg, perfect. Thank you. Angie.
I enjoyed the MOOC, and it makes me feel like, you know, after I'm done with the 2 summers program, I'm going to continue looking into MOOC because I want to learn more about my own profession, and I have other interests that I may want to look into, and I think MOOCs it's a great way to do that. And I think that we should start kids at an early age because kids at an early age, they're very curious, and if you give them the opportunity, there should be X-MOOCs for kids. So that way, you know, they could just start looking into what they like and start forming those communities at an early age.
I think that's great. If we combine what Greg's comments about lighting a fire and your comment about the inquisitive nature of our young people, then maybe we have something there. If somebody designs it and wants some help, let me know. I'm happy to ride coattails and take it to the top. So, all right, we are officially past time. I'm going to throw it over to my counterparts here, Cheryl and Elena, for any last comments. Cheryl?
On MOOCs or on the course? I do want to say that we're going to have the Cycle C grades back tomorrow.
Great.
Sorry for the delay.
Great.
That's my fault because I was at AERA, so I apologize for that, guys.
All is forgiven.
Oh, I thought it was my fault, so I'm glad to hear you say that.
I thought it was Clint's fault. I assumed he was on vacation.
Usually it's Clint's fault.
Yeah, no vacation for me. Sorry, that's a longer story that I'll explain later.
Oh no!
I just
what?
Yeah, no, I did not go away on my 4th birthday. I had a staycation. Kids were too sick, so yeah. So we're going in August. We're going in August for a considerably larger sum of money. So it's all good.
Well, I would just encourage people again to check out the back channel because there's some good conversation that's been going on there too. So
great, good point, Elena. Okay, and as I said, I did go through all your individual posts. They have comments, and we'll have grades shortly. But I can't thank you enough. This is a very meaningful part of what I'm interested in, and I appreciate you all coming in and helping enrich this conversation. So we're past due. So this is our last official live hangout. It's been fun. I think we're probably going to have one more informal one just to wrap things up. So we'll let you know what's going on with that and your final reflection. And keep on keeping on. The end is near. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks for the tech work there, Clint.
What's that, Storm?
I said thanks for the tech work. My God.
You're welcome. Anytime.
It looks like you finally have it down.
Yeah.
Yes. No. This was a very smooth hangout. Too bad we couldn't have gotten this going earlier. We'll just have to pull you all back in for next year. So.
Practice.
Thanks again, everybody. Take care.
Thank you.
Good night.
Bye.
Have a good night.
bye.